We're now streaming live to YouTube, Chair.
Thank you, Ed. Right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Planning Committee meeting. I am Councillor Brian Oldham, the Chairman of the Northampton Borough Council Planning Committee. I'm just going to read a statement out that I have to do every meeting so everybody's aware of what the situation is. It's regarding recording of virtual planning committee meetings. The public have a right to record this meeting by filming or other means whilst it is open to the public. If members pass a resolution to exclude the public from part of the meeting, then the right to record will not apply to that part of the meeting. For that reason, if a resolution is passed to exclude the public, then for the part of the meeting to which the public do not have access, the live streaming of this meeting will be switched off and resumed if the meeting again becomes open to the public. So that's the statement. So now getting on to the meeting, Ed, before you get to the apologies, if you'd be kind enough to inform whoever's watching on YouTube who is taking part with regard to officers and members, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members taking part in this meeting at the moment are yourself, Councillor Oldham, Councillors Botwood, Birch, Brian Markham, Mary Markham and Kilby Shaw. Officers joining us this evening are Peter Bagley, Head of Planning, Rita Bovey, Nikki Scaife, Hannah Weston, Adam Smith, Teresa Boyd, and myself and Maisie McInnes providing technical support.
Right, and you will be timing the speakers as normal, Ed, and looking at the count as well, you and Maisie.
Correct.
Thank you. Right, item 1 on the agenda is apologies. Ed, please.
Apologies have been received from Councillors Golby, King and Russell. Councillors Carley and Lane will be arriving late this evening.
Thank you very much. Members, I take it, I know the papers arrived a bit late this time, but I'll take it you've had time to read the minutes, and if so, are there any comments, or are you happy to accept them as a true record and me to sign them off? Show of hands, please. Show of hands. Okay, is that, I can see that's everyone, I believe. Ed? Yeah.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, we now come to deputations and public addresses. We have 7 speakers tonight. Well, there's 9 speakers really, but 1 speaker is speaking 3 times. So there's 7 speakers on tonight's agenda. So I'll call them as they are listed. So we then go on to item 4, declarations of interest and predetermination. Members, please, if you have any. Councillor Birch, yeah. Go on, Councillor Birch. Jane? Jane, yeah.
Item 10, I'm the Ward Councillor for Trinity.
Thank you. Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah.
Thanks, Chair. Declare a personal and pecuniary interest in item 12A as a board member of Northampton Partnership Homes, and I will leave the meeting for this item.
Thank you. Councillor Markham, Mary?
Yes, Chair. I've got a personal and pecuniary interest in item 12A as a board member of Northampton Partnership Homes, and I will leave the meeting for this item.
Right, on that matter, that when the meeting's finished, Mary and Alan, if you just wait while we decide 12A, even though you're out of the room, because after the meeting's finished, I have an announcement to make. It may be that people know what I'm, know the subject of what I'm going to be saying, but I think I ought to say it for anybody who don't. So if you just hang on, and then we'll call you back in as soon as we've dealt with 12A, okay? If you don't mind. No. Thank you very much. Item 5, matters of urgency. No, there are none. So we go now to item 6, which is on page 11. Rita, this is your report. I wonder if you'd deal with it, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair. Yep, page 11 of the agenda. This time we have quite a bit to talk about. We have 6 decisions that came through, 1 allowed and 5 dismissed. But I'm not going to go through all of them, but we're going to pick up a couple of them which are more interesting, I think, probably more interested for members as well. The first one I would say is no, is 33 Houston Road. This is the fourth one down from the list. This is an application we determined under officers' delegated powers for a change of use of the building plus extension to provide 6 apartments. At the time, officer felt that the scheme wasn't acceptable. It was cramped and substandard layout, so we refused planning permission. At the appeal stage, officer referred to the emerging local plan policy 4, because I think it is the council's aspiration to adopt the national space standard, although at the moment, because the policy is not in place yet, we can only give it limited weight. In the appeal statement, we also referred to the National Design Guide that was published in October last year, which referred to the fact that we should look at development that is well designed and provide good amenity. So notwithstanding the policy is not in place, the inspector confirmed that he has given quite substantial weight, significant weight, in fact, to the national space standard. So normally, for national space standard, they will refer to a flat should have 37 square meters of floor space. In fact, the proposal that was dismissed got 4 flats which were under 30 square meters. They're only about around the 28, 29 sort of square meters floor space. So the inspector considered that the development would provide an acceptable quality of accommodation for future occupiers. So that is quite encouraging for us, because notwithstanding we have not adopted the policy yet, but we are sort of pushing towards that to improve future development. So to make reference to the national space standard, obviously we have to determine each application according to its merits, depends on existing use, the location and things like that. But we still will bear in mind, it is important to provide, good amenity for future residents. So I think that is quite an interesting decision for us. The second one I would like to refer to is 69 Moore Street, further down the appeal list. This is an application for a change of use of a dwelling house to a HIMO for 6 occupants. This is one that we refuse purely on concentration, because since the adoption of the SPD last year, we maintain that 10% is the limit in terms of concentration. For this particular one, the resultant concentration will be 10.7%. So we refuse permission for that, and the inspector agreed with the council and considered that significant weight should be given to the SPD because it's very up to date, and he considered that to create further HIMO, which is over the 10%, will not support and create a good balanced community. So that is also a very good decision for the council. And finally, the one I want to refer to is the one, 4th one from the end, is Barry Road, Lutterworth Road. This is an outline application for a brownfield site of Lutterworth Road. I think it was previously, could be a builder's yard. For 4 dwellings there, although it was an outline application, all matters reserved apart from access. The officer refused the application under delegated power because of the substandard and narrow access, a very poor road surface, and with limited visibility as well to be provided. So the inspector agreed with the council that, by notwithstanding the council couldn't provide 5 years housing land supply, this particular site does have problem in terms of its access, and the inspector considered that the development would create unsafe development and would have a harmful impact on highway safety. So that's all for me tonight, to report those three. I'm quite happy to answer any questions if members have any. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. On that, members, do you have any questions to ask of Rita on her report on item 6? No?
Councillor Brian Markham's indicating, Chair.
And that's also, I've seen Councillor Jane Birch indicating as well. Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah?
I indicated early on, forgetting about the questions, I was going to comment on it. So can I just brief comment? I don't have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, 5-1 in our favour. It's a bit like a Liverpool score, really. But I'm particularly pleased that emerging, if you like, policies. The work that the council put into the 10% everything, and it's been recognised, and so we've got a good chance of turning down applications above that level in the future. And in particular, this it's taken a long time for various reasons with the changes to the local plan, but the fact it's now published and out to consultation itself gives it weight, and the space standards are a future for HIMOs and indeed self-contained apartments or whatever, that they've been taken, and just congratulate off. Having good policies sometimes does work with inspectors, and congratulate them.
Share your views on the concentration. I'm very critical of that and very supportive of the keeping to it as well. Jane, Councillor Birch. Jane.
My points were similar. Thank you.
No, thank you, Jane. Thank you. No one else? No? Okay. Well, thank you for that, Rita. Thank you very much. All right, we now come on to item 7A, committee, on page 13. The location is Parklands Middle School, Devon Way, and it's a variation to S106 agreement to vary the mortgagee exclusion and reinvestment clauses. Adam, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. As just explained, the application seeks a variation of the wording of the Section 106 legal agreement for the Parklands Middle School site to amend the mortgage exclusion and reinvestment clauses relating to affordable housing. To provide some background and to set the scene, outline permission was granted by the committee in 2018 to redevelop the site for some 132 houses, and this was followed by a subsequent reserve matters application, and I've included the approved layout on the next slide. The outline application was subject to a Section 106 legal agreement to secure various matters, including financial contributions and also the provision of 35% on-site affordable housing. The current application is seeking to vary the wording of the mortgage exclusion and reinvestment clauses relating to the affordable housing. However, for the avoidance of doubt, it is not seeking to change the overall number or mix of affordable housing, and is only seeking to amend clauses which essentially affect the funding of affordable housing and how the proceeds on any right to buy or 100% purchase of a shared ownership property is reinvested. In terms of the mortgage possession clause, there have been a number of recent applications to committee to amend this clause in other Section 106s, including the Collingtree Sustainable Urban Extension site, which was approved at the last committee. The clause essentially provides circumstances in the unlikely event that a registered provider of affordable housing defaults on the loan payment and the mortgagee takes control of the loan. Under such circumstances, another registered provider or the council would first have the option to purchase the units in a specified timeframe for affordable housing. But where in the unlikely incident they are not purchased, the mortgagee is free to dispose of them. However, under the current clause, the value is limited to existing use value for social housing, and this is presently causing difficulties for registered providers in funding affordable housing for mortgage lenders. This issue is now recognised been recognised by the National Housing Federation, and they've provided an agreed form of mortgage exclusion clause which allows properties to be valued at market value subject to tenancies. This effectively allows for higher values for residential properties and in turn allows registered providers to obtain maximum values and reuse those funds to develop more homes in the area. However, members should note that the council are not aware of any cases where a default situation has led to disposal of affordable housing, and therefore this amendment primarily relates to lending and funding matters. Turning to the reinvestment clause, this hasn't been brought previously. This is a new one on this site, and basically currently the section 106 for this site requires a registered provider to use the proceeds of any right to buy or acquisition of 100% of a shared ownership property to fund the provision of further affordable housing in the borough. So at the minute, if they get that money, they have to spend it in the borough. However, the registered provider has raised concern that this restricts the amount of reinvestment opportunities. So instead, in discussions with Housing Strategy, they're proposing a cascade mechanism for reinvestment. So that would start with, first of all, they'd look to reinvest in Northampton and the adjoining sustainable urban extensions, then Daventry and South Northants, and then followed by the remainder of Northamptonshire. To finish, there are no updates in the addendum, and the officer recommendation is to agree that the Director of Planning and Sustainability be given delegated authority to agree the proposed variation to the section 106 clauses. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Well, committee, any questions to ask Adam on that? There's no speakers on this, so straight to Adam on any questions. Anyone?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Okay, so then any comments, committee, at all? No? Well then,
Indications, Chair.
thank you. So then following on from what Adam just finalised in that presentation, do I have a proposal that that the committee agree that the Director of Planning and Sustainability be given delegated authority to agree the variation of the section 106 agreement? Do you have a proposal, please? Councillor Birch, Jane, thank you. A seconder, Councillor Botwood, Alan, thanks. All of those in favour? Do I accept the officer's recommendation?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Are we still working on 6 members, Ed?
Yes, we are.
Thank you very much, committee. So we then go on now to item 7B on page 19. This is a very similar thing. Adam, I believe this is your presentation or report again. Would you like to present this one, please?
Thank you, Chair. This agenda item neatly follows on from the previous item. And as I said, there have been a number of requests to vary the section 106 related to a mortgage exclusion clauses. However, currently, the delegated powers of the Director of Planning and Sustainability do not allow for variations of section 106, and therefore every future request to amend this clause needs to be reported to the Planning Committee. So as such, this agenda item is seeking delegated authority for the Director of Planning and Sustainability to agree variations to the mortgage exclusion clause. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Once again, committee, no speakers on it. Do anybody have any questions to Adam on that? No? Okay, so do I have any comments at all? No?
No indications, Chair.
Thank you very much. So can I ask a proposal on the recommendation that's on your agenda that the committee agree that the Director of Planning and Sustainability. Did you have a comment? Do you have a comment, Brian? Or was you proposing, Brian? You're proposing. Okay, that we accept the officer's recommendation. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Kilbyshaw, Sam, thank you. All those in favour, please.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, committee. Thank you, Adam. Right, we now go on to, items 8 and 9. There is no business on items 8 and 9 at all. So we then go straight on to items, the main items for determination this evening, which you go to item 10. The first one on item 10A is the university. The location is the University of Northampton Avenue campus, St George's Avenue. I shan't go into what the description is. You've all got it on your agendas. Adam, this is your report as well. You're the one that's still on stage at the moment. So would you like to present this, please?
Thank you, Chair.
And it's on page 23, committee.
So this is a hybrid planning application for the Avenue campus site. So effectively there's two elements to it. There's full planning permission. So it's for a total of 170 dwellings, and there are two elements to it. So there is full planning permission is sought for 58 apartments relating to the Madewell building, which would be part demolished, part converted and extended to provide those 58 dwellings with associated parking. Then the other part is an outline part, which is for the remaining up to 112 dwellings. That's to the rear part of the site that has been previously developed. And it also includes alterations to the car park for the Newton building. To set the scene, I've included an aerial photograph of the wider area, and you can see the university site set to the north of the racecourse, the Malcolm Arnold School behind with its floodlit playing fields to the rear, which are accessed off Trinity Avenue. There's the Kingsley Local Centre over here, and the town centre is about a mile to the south of the site over here. This is the red edge plan for the application. And you can see that the Newton building on the St George's Avenue frontage is actually excluded from the site and is intended to stay in education use. The Madewell building is a building here which occupies the frontage of the site, and then there are various buildings to the rear. You've got the Bassett Loke building, which is to this side, which is student accommodation, and the remainder are sort of education related uses. There's also a treed area to the west, as well as other treed areas, but this western area here is understood as being managed as a local wildlife site by the university and the local wildlife group.
Yes.
I will run through some photos shortly, but I've just started off just as an angled photograph first, which hopefully provides some context. And you can see the variety of scale, design, and of the site. It includes got the Bassett Loke, which is 4 stories here, the single-story buildings to the rear, quite a lot of car parking, and also this is the treed area that I talked about to the edge of the site. In addition, I'll highlight while we're on this of the Madewell building. This is the 1930s part that's referred to in the report, and then this is the 1960s infill at the front. And it's the front corner bits which are the bits that would be retained as part of the proposal. There are currently 2 axes on the site running to either side of the Madewell building. Before quickly running through the photos, this slide highlights the extent of the conservation area, the Kingsley Conservation Area, which covers the racecourse, and it wraps around the Newton building, which is grade 2 listed, and the Madewell building. And you can see, interestingly, that the older parts of it are identified as a locally listed building. And the demolition of these parts does result in some harm, which is balanced in detail in the report. Moving on to the photographs, here we have the Newton building on St George's Avenue, which falls outside the site. This is the existing access that runs between the Newton building and the Madewell building, and this is to be widened as part of the proposal. The bookends or pavilions are referred to as interchangeably. This would be retained as part of the proposal. This is the right hand, the eastern one, and then to the left, this is, you can see the 60s later edition, which would be demolished and replaced to some extent. Looking again across the 60s bit, and you can see the existing building has a sunken basement area to the front. Moving along, this is the centre of the 60s building, and this is where a new access will be formed on the request of Highways due to the gradients of the site to run into the site. This is the western bookend of the Madewell building, which would again be retained, and this part here at the back would also be retained, and there would be a new extension on the back part here. This access here is shown as being closed as part of the proposal. On the indicative plans, it would be a pedestrian cycleway link. This is due to the gradient of it and highway concerns as to do with it being a vehicular access to serve the development. So it's shown indicatively as a cycle and pedestrian footway. Here we have a photo looking into the site. You can see the Bassett Lope building here, and then you can see the Isham studio beyond, and you can just make out the floodlights and the sports pitch behind the Malcolm Arnold School. This is then looking back up. This is the Quinton building, which is indicatively shown as being converted within the site. Looking back again, so you've got Bassett Lope. The Quinton is just behind it. This is the Madewell building. So the back part from about here, wrapping around, would all be demolished as part of the proposal. And this is the Innovation Centre, just on the left. Back corner of the Madewell building. This is looking across towards the Innovation Centre. They've got the Isham Studios, the Bassett Lope, quite a lot of car parking, as you can see. The Student Union is sort of tucked behind the Isham Studios. This is the wildlife area in the corner of the site beyond the car park for the Bassett Lope accommodation. This is the back of the Madewell. This is the eastern side, so the side next to the Newton building. And in terms of this side, it would be retained up to this point here and converted with a new staircase put on the back. And then this would be demolished as part of the proposal. The back of the Newton building, and then this is looking up to Trinity Avenue, which is on a higher level. Turning to the specifics of the application proposal, as part of the application is an outline, it has been accompanied by a number of indicative details and parameter plans to seek to demonstrate that the amount of development can be accommodated in the outline part of the site. Although these details are indicative and the final layout would be assessed as part of a future reserve matters application should planning permission be forthcoming. However, full details have been provided of the works to the Madewell building at the front of the site. So in terms of some of the parameter plans that have been submitted, this is the land use parameter plan, and this essentially shows the yellow is where housing is indicatively shown to come forward, and it shows that 170 units could be accommodated in the previously developed, so the brownfield part of the site where the existing buildings and car parks are. It's also worth noting the orange bits. These are the retained parts here and here of the Madewell building, and the blue area is the bit that's to be retained for car parking for the Newton building and to be reconfigured at reserve matter stage. Next is the access and movement parameter plans, and this shows the two access to the site. So this is the existing one that would be altered to be widened. This is the new one running through what is currently the centre of the Madewell building, and this is where the existing one would be closed and turned to a pedestrian cycleway. These plans indicatively show a new footway and cycleway running from Trinity Avenue and Freehold Street, and that would be part of a subsequent reserve matters application. Here we have, this is the height parameter plan, and this indicatively suggests that the taller part of the building would be associated with the existing Madewell building part of the site, and the remainder of the site would essentially come forward as 2 or 3 story. The blue is 2 and the green is 3 story. But as you've seen from the layout, Bassett Lope situated about here is 4 stories, so this site could accommodate taller buildings. Okay, this is the detailed site plan, so the full part of the application. It includes the 2 new accesses. This is the widened one with cycleways and footways to the side. This is the new one running through here. You can see this is the retained parts of the Madewell. So on this side, it would be basically the bulk of this with just a little bit added on the end. And to this side, this is the retained part, and this is a new replacement wing on the back. Then there would be 2 new terraces going in to replace the 60s part of the building. Then you have the 129 car parking spaces to the rear. There is housing shown around this to the north and west, but this is taken from the indicative detail. So this is just to give an idea how it could be integrated at reserve matter stage. Okay, moving on to the elevations. We have the front and the rear elevations here. This is the front, so you can see the retained historic parts of the Madewell Pavilion, and then you can see that there's a new contemporary infill terraces to either side with the new road running through the middle. And again, like the existing, there is a basement area. To the rear, there's a more, again, they got the contemporary infill parts. Moving on, this is the outer side. So as I said, this is the retained bit next to the Madewell, next to the Newton building. And at the end, that's where the new stairwell part will go on. And then this is on the Quinton house, the Quinton side of the building. And this is the retained part. And this is the new bit on the end. And then the internal elevations, they would involve the removal of a number of internal projections. So they would essentially have new facades, and you can see they'd have quite a contemporary appearance, which would integrate with the rear of the new infill projections. Moving on to floor plans, I won't dwell on these because it's quite a long presentation, but essentially this is level 0, they call. So effectively it's a basement to the front, but they have their own, that sunken amenity area to the front, and these would be duplex apartments. So they'd have accommodation on this floor and on what effectively would be the ground floor. There is also some storage shown in this area. And this is the upper floor, the duplex, the ground floor. And then I've included one, the sort of top floor of the building, and in the new infill terraces, these would include balcony terraces looking over the race course. So I'm getting closer to the end now. So this is the illustrative master plan, which I referred to earlier, and it's essentially seeking to provide an indication of one way that the site could be developed for up to 170 units, and how the detailed part of the application, which is this part in at the front, would integrate with the remainder of the site. There's also an illustrative landscape master plan. And again, this shows an illustrative east-west link road with that cycleway I talked about linking up and just cutting across the edge of that western wildlife area, with the bulk of it retained, but it would cut across the edge with sustainable drainage pond feature over here. To finish, it is worth highlighting that the scheme has been subject to amendment since its original submission to reduce the number of dwellings from 200 to 170, and full details have been provided related to the works to the Madewell building in order that the impact on the heritage assets can be fully considered. In addition, there have been extensive discussions with statutory consultees, and it's considered that the matters raised can be addressed by conditions and planning obligations. Also, the viability of the scheme has been independently assessed, and it has been found that it cannot afford to provide any affordable housing, but can make contributions towards education and healthcare facilities and off-site highways improvements to seek to mitigate the impacts of the development. Overall, it's considered that the benefits arising from the scheme, including the significant contribution to the council's 5-year housing supply and redevelopment of a brownfield site, would outweigh the harm arising from the demolition of parts of the Madewell building. Therefore, it is considered the scheme is acceptable, and the officer recommendation is to approve, subject to conditions and the Section 106 legal agreement. However, an additional condition is recommended in the addendum to take away permitted development rights for the conversion of dwellings to HIMOs to align with the new borough-wide Article 4 direction that is coming into effect next month. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for that very detailed presentation. Take a deep breath at the minute if you can. Committee, we have one speaker on this, and before I call upon the first speaker, all speakers, please note you've got 3 minutes to speak, 3 minutes allowance, and in every case you'll be asked to identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, and you'll be asked on each individual item that you speak on for a matter of the record. So I call without any further delay Catherine Mason, please. Catherine,
Hello.
are you around?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening. Yes.
Great. Good evening, everyone.
If you just identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, Catherine, please.
Yeah, I'm Catherine Mason, and I'm the planning consultant on behalf of the University of Northampton, speaking in support of the Avenue Campus application.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, councillors. My starting point is that this proposal is sustainable development in accordance with your local plan. The proposal makes good use of a brownfield site which is in a sustainable location. The emerging local plan part 2 allocates the site for up to 200 dwellings. Thanks to the efforts of our design team, your officers and consultees, this is a carefully designed high quality scheme. The most significant elements of the locally listed Madewell building are retained and reused. A new high-quality terraced frontage will be created between the retained pavilions and facing St George's Avenue. High-quality, spacious and desirable apartments will be created in this space. The proposal will deliver up to 170 units and will provide much needed housing, contributing to the council's 5-year housing land supply. The existing green areas within the site will be protected and trees will be integrated into the layout, and there will be new play space. We've worked closely with NBC and the officers to ensure that any impacts arising from the scheme are satisfactorily mitigated against. The site has been used for many years, as you know, as a busy university campus. It creates traffic, noise and activity. We have worked with your officers to amend the scheme to ensure that the council standards are met. We have resolved ecology, archaeology and drainage issues to a satisfactory conclusion. The transport assessment calculates that there will be fewer trips overall in the peak hours, but this notwithstanding, the university has agreed to a contribution to secure changes to the signal timing on the 2 junctions highlighted by NCC. We have agreed a Section 106 package with your officers towards wider mitigation of the scheme. We hope you'll be able to support this proposal, which is the final piece in the jigsaw of the university's new Waterside campus. The university is an important stakeholder in Northampton. We, the university, have done great things by regenerating the disused Waterside site and realising a new town centre university campus which is in the enterprise zone. The redevelopment of Avenue is all part of that plan, and the receipt from the development is an important constituent of the university's financing. The university is still repaying loans that help deliver the new campus, and the receipt from the sale of Avenue has always been planned in order to meet existing commitments. The sale will also mitigate against future challenges in what is an uncertain time for all industries, including higher education. In summary, this is a high quality, sustainable redevelopment of a brownfield site. We have worked hard with your officers to deliver a scheme that the town could be proud of, including the retention of the locally listed Madewell building. I hope you are able to support this proposal tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Catherine. If you just remain on screen and with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you, please. Committee, on that regard, does anyone have any questions to ask of Catherine? Councillor Birch, Jane. Councillor Jane, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Catherine, thank you very much for that. Is there going to be any reference to the sort of historical importance that this site has been within the community? You know, it has been the art college, the technical college for many, many years, and it has a history to it in that context, as a place of, you know, artistic excellence, of training and education. And you know, going back to, say, the Second World War, the London art colleges were evacuated to Northampton, and students came and worked in Northampton from London, including their tutors, and Henry Moore was one of the tutors who came and worked. And all of this somehow needs to be reflected in this new development. It's, you know, it is very important to the area, and you know, I'd hope that the university would also support that as, you know, an extension and recognition of the work and the education, the training and the excellence that's been, you know, part of this building for many years.
I'm sure the university would be supportive of that. It's also probably worth stating, Adam can probably expand on this, but there is a condition, a proposed condition, that ensures that the Madewell building is recorded, so the parts that are going to be demolished, so that there is a record that's put in the local library for all time. So we're very aware that it has been in the past an important building to Northampton, so we're very happy for that to be recorded.
Right, okay, Jane, thank you. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Catherine, please?
No.
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Right, thank you. Adam, before we go on to questions to you, do you want to come back on anything that Catherine might have said or has been mentioned?
No, thank you, Chair.
Right, committee's questions to Adam now. Anyone got any questions to Adam, please? Jane, is that half? Yeah, you're up there, Jane. Okay. Go on, Jane.
Adam, I noticed that the 106 has been reduced, but there is still some 106 money there for this development. And that is to maintain the green space around the site in perpetuity. Could you confirm that that's the case? Because this is often a real bone of contention when developments are built, that the residents eventually have to pay for this. But can we just confirm that the 106 money will cover that and the residents will not have that cost?
The 106 money would go towards education provision, health facility provision, and the works to the highway junction. The section 106 requirements relating to the open space would be to look to secure it in perpetuity as open space, but effectively we would be looking for the future developer to be responsible for that. So it may be that it comes down to future occupiers of this site that are having to fund the open space in perpetuity.
Anyone else got any questions to ask of Adam, please? No?
Chair, I had, well, I thought press the button to raise my hand for a question. I wondered if I could see the frontage again, where there's the infill between the two Madewell bookends, as they were described, because I'm very impressed with what proposed, the work that's proposed to the Madewell building, and surprised that in fact it's been retained. But I only briefly saw the frontage of the terrace bits, and I'd just like to see them again because I wasn't particularly impressed with them.
Is this what you're after, Councillor?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so this is the retained parts here and here, these are the parts that are actually listed and specifically referred to in the conservation area appraisal. And these are the 1930s, and then there was a 1960s building that ran across that infilled the gap. So these are the two contemporary replacements. And then this is the rear, and they would effectively look on to the parking courtyard, and the layout with the sort of the corner arrangements of them around the car park, which you can see in this bottom bit just here, effectively sort of replicates the historic courtyard form of the Madewell building.
Does that clarify what you was after, Brian?
I'm sorry, you're muted, Councillor Markham.
I can't see him.
Perhaps I just, because I won't comment on the rest of it, the extensions at the side of the Madewell building seem to fit in with the materials of the existing, and these, I know this 1960s block there at the moment, but this, to me, just this proposed brick structure doesn't quite fit in with the others. It's just a comment. You know, the rest of the, see the height and everything else, but you know, that I'm not sure. It's just a comment anyway.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, Adam, if you can, thank you. Right, anyone else got any questions to ask of Adam? No? Okay, well, thank Catherine for her presentation when she's speaking, and thank you, Adam. If you don't want to come back on anything else, fine. I'll go now to comments, committee comments on the application. Councillor Birch, Jane, I'm preceding you because I know you've got some comments to make, so carry on.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the ward councillor of this area, but I'm also very much involved in the neighbourhood plan that is part of the way through being made. And there's been a lot of interest in the development of this site. One of the things that the residents are very keen on is that development should include, in modern sustainable construction methods and materials, and where appropriate, low carbon technologies to help reduce emissions and to improve efficiency and air quality. And there's a very strong feeling that the design of the building should be of the highest standard and to a scale and character that contributes positively towards the more traditional developments that surround the site. The highest standard of design should include the use of sustainably sourced compatible materials to the area, the orientation of the buildings to take advantage of solar radiation, the type of development that contributes towards meeting local needs in the community, and the heights of buildings that do not overbear or shadow existing buildings and density of development that is appropriate to the surrounding area. Now, obviously, that is for the future, and that's just really to be sort of borne in mind that this is only part of the development. The rest of the development, has yet to come. But the local community is very keen to see this environmentally friendly sustainability built into forward plans, and I'd hope that in the future that we could hold this as a standard that we would hope to aspire to. Thank you.
I can see you, Peter. I can see you, Peter. You want to say something, Peter? Excuse me, Jane. Sorry, Jane. Had you finished there, or you had? Thank you, Peter. You wanted to come in on that, Peter?
Yeah, I'd just draw members' attention to the emerging policies in the local plan part 2, which set out to achieve exactly what Councillor Birch has just described. So hoping we get that adopted in time for approving or adding some weight when we approve the reserve matters application. I'm sure we can help deliver those aims.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Jane, for that. Anyone else got any comments to make, please? No?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much, Maisie. Well, then it falls upon the committee. The officer's recommendation is for approval. It's a well-detailed report. Thank you, Adam, and the way you presented it. And thanks for all the comments that's been made. So I now call upon, do I have a proposer to accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this? Councillor Morecambe, Brian, yeah. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah. All those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this application?
Agreed.
Unanimous?
Sorry, Chair, can I just clarify one matter here? Councillors Chowdhury, Kelly and Lane entered after the debate had started.
They
so
can't
can I
vote.
recommend that they do not take part in the vote?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I was going to say. How many are we counting then? So put your hands up again, please, committee, those who can vote on it. So there should be 6, I think, on this.
That's 6. It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all that take part in that. Now, on that very point that you raised there, Peter, I will ask Ed. So with Councillor Lane, Councillor Kelly and Councillor Chowdhury joining us, thank you very much, committee members. Before we get into the next item, I have to ask all 3 of you, do you have any declarations of interest or predetermination as an item 4, please?
No.
No?
Chair, no, nothing from myself.
Thank you, Naz. Nothing from you, Jamie. Thank you. Good evening. Nothing. Muna, from you? No, nothing?
Nothing from me, Chair.
Thank you very much. Obliged to that. So right now, on that score then, Ed, we have now, I believe, 9 members now debating and voting on item 10B. Is that correct?
Correct, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right. With regards to item 10B, which is the next item on the agenda committee, which is on page 53. This is for an application at 14 to 18 St Michael's Road for a proposed construction of a residential development comprising of 22 self-contained apartments. I won't go into it any further. Nikki, this is your report. Would you be kind enough to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for those bits. But just draw members' attention to the addendum, as with the previous application and the forthcoming Article 4 in relation to HIMOs within the borough. So this is just an additional condition to withdraw permitted development rights in the case of these units being converted to prevent conversion to a HIMO without planning consent. So this is the application site here. Just aerial view, and I'll go in and do a closer aerial view. So the site is located on the edge of the town centre. You've got St Michael's Road along the top. To the east of the site, you've got Grade 2 listed buildings. That's 20 to 26 St Michael's Road. Opposite the site, over the other side of St Michael's Road, you've got the Grade 2 former Hawkins shoe factory building. Then there's another listed building. This is the old Deco Cinema building, which is also Grade 2 listed, which is visible from the site. So the actual application site is this green scrub area, vacant site there. You've got residential 3-storey terraces to the west of the site. This is in commercial use. Again, it's 3-storey, the building to the east. And then you've got Northampton College buildings and car park, and then St Michael's multi-storey just there. There is an existing planning consent to develop the site for 20 units, and that's been implemented. Effectively, a lot of the drainage works went in, so that consent is a live consent. This is the view of the site from St Michael's Road. You've got the residential terraces there, and then the commercial units there. This is the sites. You can just about make it on the left-hand side. It's just to show you in the context of the former Hawkins factory buildings. And then a view through, this is the site, and a view through to Northampton College to the rear of the site. And note the report does refer to this, the height of this, unusual height of this boundary wall. This is number 12 St Michael's Road, and you can just about make out in the background there number 12A, which is referred to in the report. So this is a view of the site from St Michael's car park. So the site sort of sits within here. You can make out the greenery there. Again, you've got 12 and 12A. This is in use as flats, and including this 2-storey building. This building here is accessed from St Michael's Road, so you have to go through number 12 to get to that site. And then, as I say, you've got the commercial buildings to the other side of the site. So in terms of the extent of development, the building height itself will just be marginally higher than the 2 buildings either side. It doesn't come out any further than this wall here on the edge of the commercial buildings. And then along the boundary on the western side, it's approximately adjoins the side of that 2-storey building there. Again, view through to the Hawkins factory. These are the 2 windows in the flats that are referred to as secondary windows. So you've got a main aspect to these flats is front and rear of the buildings. Again, you can see the relative height of this very tall boundary wall adjacent to 12A. And then just a view of 12A again. Whereas I'll just go back, you can just about make out that there's quite a difference in land levels from St Michael's Road to the back of the site. It drops about 5 to 6 metres, so kind of where my laser is now is approximately pavement level of St Michael's Road, and then the site, as I say, drops significantly towards the back. So this is the site layout. The blue dash line that you can see there is indicates the footprint of the extant consent. So the proposal is slightly bigger in places, but and slightly smaller in others, as you can see. But this shows the relationship with the properties that I've just shown you. So 12, the 2-storey building, 12A there, and then 12 and the flats there. So because of the variation in ground levels, the building would actually be 4 stories at the front and then 6 stories at the back. So there would be a void area, because this essentially is effectively underground, these 2 void areas here to the front of the site. As the site levels drop to the rear, the proposal would be to have two bedroom flats here, and then you've got a communal outdoor, small area of outdoor communal space to the rear. So that's essentially called garden level. So that's, and the adjacent area is effectively lower ground level, where again you've got two bedroom flats and as I say, a void to the front. So this is ground level. You'd have access here from St Michael's Road, and then there's a large bin storage area with access again from St Michael's Road. The building does have a lift which covers all floors, so that does go down to the lower ground floor as well. I'll just go back and show you that there is on the lower ground floor a cycle store there, and as I say, that would have lift access to it as well. So it's a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. The ones shown in yellow here are duplex apartments, so they extend to the upper floors above. And again, as I say, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments throughout. And that's the 3rd floor, the upper floor, and there's the inclusion of some external terrace areas to the upper floors. This is the view of the building from the front. As I say, the mark there gives an indication of what was previously approved. So the current proposal is slightly lower in terms of ridge height. Just sits slightly above the existing buildings either side. In terms of design, the eaves height reflects that of the adjoining building, so it gives the appearance of an eaves height that runs through and is consistent with the adjoining buildings. And it's also been designed to reflect the strong rhythm of particularly the building to the west of the site, the commercial building. The rhythm of that building and the fenestration details, just to pick up on some of the character of the surrounding area. As I say, it's 4 stories from the front, and then the 4th floor is actually set back in the roof. So effectively, it reflects the 3-story heights of the adjacent buildings and then steps back with that fourth story there. This is the view from the rear. So this is where you have the 6 stories and the increase in height to allow for the change in land levels. Again, you've still got a strong sense of rhythm, but there's 2 extending gables and then 2 flat roof extensions that extend further out in the building. The side elevation here just shows you how the upper floors start to stagger in. And that's just the side elevation from the other side. So the principle of residential development's already been established on the site with the extant consent. In terms of heritage assets, as I pointed out, there's a number of, it's within the conservation area, and there are a number of listed buildings within the vicinity of the site. The site as it currently stands is considered to have a negative impact on the character of the surrounding area. And the design as proposed is considered to reflect an enhancement to that area in respect of heritage assets and the conservation area. In respect of proposed residential amenity, the flat sizes, they vary between 35 to 50 square metres for 1-bedroom flats and 55 to 72 square metres for the 2-bedroom, with just 1 bed sit, which falls below at 30 metres squared. So there's a variation in respect. We spoke about the national space standards. Some are over and above, some are slightly below. On average, they're all considered to be of a reasonable size, and they've all got good levels of light and outlook. And as I say, there's lift access to all floors, so good access within the building. There's also a condition proposed to ensure secure access and agree details of secure access to the building, which will be approved by condition. In terms of the impact on these existing neighbouring properties, that's comparable to the existing consent that's on the site for 20 flats. And it's not considered that there'd be any adverse impact on the amenity. As I say, I pointed out the height of that wall adjacent to those properties there. In respect of drainage and flood risk, the site's in flood zone 1, so it's got low probability of flooding. The application is supported by a flood risk assessment, and there's a condition to agree a more detailed drainage strategy for the site. In respect of highway matters, the site has no on-site parking provision, and that there's no ability to provide any within the site. It is in a sustainable location. The Highway Authority have raised no objection in that regard. And as I pointed out, there's provision for cycle storage within the building. In respect of Section 106 and affordable housing, the proposal is for 22 units, and therefore that there is a policy requirement for the provision of affordable housing and Section 106 developer contributions. This application has been subject to a viability appraisal, which has been assessed by independently for the council. It has concluded that the site wouldn't be viable if it provided any affordable housing or 106 contributions. So effectively, the site would come forward without any of those. It would still be subject to SIL payments and the requirements on the council's infrastructure list. Conditions are proposed, it is within an air quality area, being on St Michael's Road, and conditions are proposed to ensure appropriate mitigation in respect of air quality impacts and road noise impacts on future occupiers. So that's likely to come forward in the form of double glazing and some form of mechanical ventilation, particularly for the units at the front of the building. There's also conditions proposed because of the previous industrial use of the site, so conditions proposed to deal with contamination mitigation, and also condition to agree construction management plan. It's evidently a very constrained site, so we'd need to agree, particularly in respect of highway matters and environmental health matters, agree the details of those going forward. So notwithstanding the fact that unfortunately the site is unable to provide any affordable housing and 106, the site has been vacant for a number of years. It's in a prominent part of the town. The redevelopment as proposed is considered to bring an enhancement to this part of the site and assist in regenerating this part of the town. So therefore, on balance, and including the fact that it would provide significantly towards the council's housing need, officer recommendation is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nikki, for that detailed presentation. Thank you very much. Right, committee, we have 2 speakers on this item. I'll now call upon them as they are listed. Could I have Councillor Danielle Stone, please?
Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Danielle. Welcome. Could you just identify yourself? I've got to ask you this on another couple of occasions, but could you please identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, please, for the record?
I'm Councillor Danielle Stone. I'm one of the ward councillors for this area. And it's always really difficult. I was asked whether I was speaking for or against this property, this application, and my answer is both, really, because there are some aspects of it that I totally agree with, but I have got some concerns. So as a ward councillor, I'm really pleased with developments coming forward that make use of space in the way that is being applied for, and surely, you know, we do need more dwellings. My concern, though, is about the density of what's being proposed, and in particular, the space allocation to each apartment. And yet again, my reading may be wrong, but my reading of the plans is that the space is described without storage space. So what we're really interested in is the livable footage. And I think once storage has been put in, the livable amount of space is really, really small. And so I'm worried, I'm very concerned about that. And in particular, I'm concerned, I thought in the plans, we've just been told there's one bed set, but in the plans that I've read, there were 3 studios, all of them very, very tiny. So I'm really concerned about that. There's other things I'm concerned about. There's a lot of attention has been paid to noise and noise management, but not a huge amount on air quality in the reports that I've seen. This development backs on to a car park, well, 2 car parks, a multi-storey car park or the college car park. It's on a really, really busy main thoroughfare. The air pollution is going to be tremendous, and I think we need to see more mitigations against that than the ones that have just been described. We need, for example, to make sure that cars going in and out of the car park don't idle. I think we ought to be looking to make St Michael's Road 20 miles an hour. I think there are a lot of other mitigations that need to be put in to protect the residents, the potential residents, from harm because of air quality. There's the potential for having 44 people living in this development. That is going to generate an awful lot of black sacks. I am not reassured by the storage that's been proposed for that. And one of my fears is that we are going to see 22, 44 black sacks out on the road because people's dwellings are too small for them to keep their rubbish in. And the rubbish, the refuse area that's been described is too small to manage that volume of waste. So I'm really anxious about that. And then, of course, you know, I have got such a huge issue around the issues of viability. Of course, developers are always going to say that it isn't viable to have affordable homes there. If none of these dwellings are affordable homes, who on earth is going to be living there, actually? We need affordable homes, and we need a contribution for the services that are going to be required. This development, it says in the report, is going to add to the pressure for school places, for medical services, for waste collection services, a huge number of services. And, you know, developers need to develop, it seems to me, an ethical framework. And we need to be encouraging them to do that and not letting them off quite so lightly.
That's time, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Ed. Anybody got any questions to ask of Councillor Stone, please, on a statement? I can't see anybody on my screen indicating. No.
No, nobody indicating, Chair.
Right. Thank you, Danielle. And I'll call upon Mr. Jonathan Weeks, please. Mr. Weeks, if you'd like to identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Good evening.
Yeah, let's say good evening. My name's Jonathan Weeks. I'm speaking as the agent on behalf of the application.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, thank you for your time this evening. It's very much appreciated. The application before you has been with the council for over 12 months, and during that time we've worked very closely with the council planning and conservation officers to come up with a scheme which is of high quality, and as a result it's coming to you with a recommendation for approval. It's a bespoke scheme for the site from an award-winning architect, and it's been designed so that it can be assimilated into the conservation area without causing harm to the listed buildings. Of importance, I think it's worth noting, as was indicated by Nikki, that the current proposal has actually got a ridgeline lower than what the previous extant consent was. So it's got less mass than the previous one. And also, I think it's quite important to note that the extra floor, which is at the loft level, is actually set notably back from the street so that you can't actually see it at street level. And there were visuals which were provided as part of the application to show that. As noted in the committee report, there is an extant consent here for 20 units. This proposal has rationalised the use of the space within the building to make it much more efficient, which has allowed the 2 extra units to be delivered without adding to the overall mass or scale of the structure. The units floor areas within the 2 schemes are comparable in size. It is literally the amount of circulation space which has been rationalised through better design. Everybody is in agreement in terms of the council officers and ourselves that the current proposal is a substantial improvement upon the previous one, both in terms of its design and the benefits it can generate through the extra apartments. I know it's just been criticised the fact that there isn't any financial contributions from a viability perspective which are going with this proposal, but it is simply down to the fact that this is a scheme which is essentially uncommercially viable by all parties except for the applicant who owns the site. He's got personal ties to the area and he wants to provide a legacy building. He spent over £100,000 so far on this scheme in terms of the fees and everything else which go with it, of getting it to this point. So he is committed to wanting to try and deliver high quality development which will help the face of this street and the borough as a whole. But it can't give all of the financial contributions which would normally come with it. It just doesn't stack up, unfortunately. And this scheme itself is actually better in terms of what it can deliver than what the older one, the extant one is. It is a site which is sustainably located and where you should and need to be locating development. But in terms of being able to get something to come forward, essentially, we need a positive recommendation from yourselves. Otherwise, it may well be that you find that this site is essentially being left as a void in the street for litter and everything else to be thrown into for another decade or more before it's a very different economic market and something else would change. I think just in terms of the other points in comparison to the previous scheme, just to fill you in on some of those blanks potentially, that scheme had no financial contributions attached to it, and that scheme had no affordable contributions. So the difference between the two is essentially very little in terms of the pressure which is placed upon the infrastructure and every other service which is in the borough.
That's time, Chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Weeks, I'd have to cut you off there.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much.
If you just stay with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you, please. Committee, any questions to ask of Mr. Weeks? Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah. Excuse me.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Weeks, these are the 1 and 2 bedroom apartments in a town centre location. Is it envisaged that actually they're for the rental market, or are they proposed to be sold? And just out of interest, we get various definitions of affordable housing, some of which are deemed affordable by the government. I just wondered if they're for sale, is there any idea what the going market is, say, for a 2-bedroom apartment in this sort of location with these facilities? That may be more affordable than some of the definitions of affordable.
Yeah, that's fine. In terms of the actual building, it's intended that the building would actually be hopefully kept by the applicant and the units would be rented. However, in terms of the actual sale values, I can't tell you exactly where they are offhand. I know they are within the viability report, which I can quite happily, if you give me a minute, look through and see what those figures are, if you'd like me to.
If they're going to be rented anyway, it doesn't really, the sale value doesn't come into it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But no, the intention is there will be rental units, which obviously does add to a part of the market, which is needing to be supported in general within the same centres. Okay.
Right, thank you, Mr. Weeks. Thank you, Brian. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Mr. Weeks, please? I can't. No?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Weeks. Right, Nikki, before I open the questions to committee, do you want to come back up to committee, to you that is, do you want to come back on anything that's been raised by the speakers?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just in reference to the size of units, yes, sorry, Councillor Stone, it is correct. There are 3 bedsits in total proposed. The reference to 1 bedsit was in particular in relation to the size of one, which is actually 30 square metres, and acknowledging the fact that that does fall below the space standards. But on average, the 1-bed units, the national space standards refer to a size for 1 beds of 37 square metres. The 1-bed units range between 35 to 50 square metres. So some slightly under, but then again considerably over. In respect of the 2 beds, again, the national space standards refer to minimum size of 61 square metres. The 2 beds range between 55 and 72 square metres. So again, you've got some slightly under, some considerably over. So it's sort of taking a balanced view in respect, and also taking on board that although we are heading in the direction of adopting those standards with the local plan policy part 2, they're not yet adopted, but encouraging the appeal decision earlier, that it gives us some weight to start moving in that direction. In terms of concerns about air quality, condition 10 actually requires the submission of essentially a health impact assessment and appropriate mitigation. So that's in respect of air quality and noise, and that will be reviewed with environmental health to make sure that air quality impacts on proposed documents are appropriately mitigated. In respect of, unfortunately, we can't control the way cars move in and out of the multi-storey car park by way of this application. Environmental health are evidently continually reviewing air quality in the area, and doing studies to try and improve conditions within the town centre and surrounding area of Northampton. So that there are aims to improve things generally, but other than condition 10, those essentially fall out of the control of this application. In terms of bin storage, there is a large bin storage area on the ground floor, which has provisioned for a number of Euro bins. Environmental health haven't raised any objection in terms of the refuse storage provided. I think that was it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nikki. Right, now then, committees, any questions to Nikki that you may have, please? Any questions to Nikki? No?
No indications, Chair.
Thanks, Ed. So now it's comment committee. Any comments on the application, please? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I share some of the other members' thoughts on section 106, i.e. Danielle Stone mentioned it, and other issues that we would like, but we're not going to get. But my overruling feeling is that this site has been empty since 1999. Now, if we're going to get 22 houses or properties that can be rented out, I think that's going to be a good boost for the town, and I have a mind to support the application.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. Anyone else got any comments, please, committee? No, I can't see any. No.
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Maisie. Right, committee, then that being the case, the officer's recommendation is for approval. It's been a very detailed presentation. Thank you very much, Nikki, for that, and very well answered and constructed questions by Councillor Stone and Mr. Weeks. So my duty to you is to say, right, do we follow the officer's recommendation? Are we happy that we approve this application? And if so, could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Botwood, Alan proposing. A seconder, please.
Councillor Lane's got his hand up, Chair.
Councillor Lane, thank you, Jamie. So all those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this application, please.
That's 9 hands. That's unanimous, Chair.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. This application is approved on that basis. Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Right, we now come on to item 10C committee, which is on page 69. Item 10C is the location is the Sofa King Tivoli House, Toaster Road. It's a variation of conditions. And Anna, I believe this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just to first point towards the addendum, there are two updates. So we had some comments from Councillor Walker, and we've also added another condition similar to the previous application we've heard tonight, removing the right to convert to a HIMO. So committee members may remember this site. It's Sofa King on Toaster Road. Just an aerial view. And just take you through some photographs. So this is looking up St Leonard's Road, and the yellow building is Sofa King. Just a bit closer, and this building would remain. This isn't part of the site. So it's the yellow building, which actually wraps around the back. Just looking down the main road, so Sofa King is here, and you can see the previously built block of flats over the road. Again, just another angle. So this is Sofa King and the existing flats. And then looking back, again, this is Sofa King, including this car park, and the existing flats over there. So approval was granted under application 2017-0127 for a 40 number flats scheme with a retail unit at ground floor. So this was the layout of that, just to show you indicatively. And this was the approved elevations. This application we are now considering is to slightly amend the approval. It's a variation application, and as such we can only look at the changes they are proposing, and it's important to remember that this already has consent. So the changes, if I move to the proposed scheme, focus mainly around the design of this corner and this corner over here, where they are slightly reducing the size of the building. So this building did go out at a right angle. They've cut the corner off and created a new gable fronting the roundabout, helping the building turn around the corner. If I move to the next slide, you can see it easier. So this is the corner where it's facing the roundabout. Again, this is the same corner facing the roundabout. And then this is the other corner, which they've cut in, and all they've done is slightly go in, but it has resulted in some of the gables having to be slightly redesigned and resized. And again, this is that corner, which has been slightly reduced, meaning 2 gables have been added. It was one large one, and not many changes on the northern elevation. So this is the now proposed ground floor. So as you can see, the only change is this corner has been cut off a very small amount, and this corner has been cut off, and that is what we are considering tonight. The retail floor space proposed is exactly the same size as previously approved. Because it has to be, because it's a variation application, it has to be exactly the same size. Because we have lost the corners, 1 parking space has been lost. So there's now 39 parking spaces instead of 40. The amount of parking is, however, considered acceptable because it is a sustainable location, very close to shops in the town centre, and it's considered acceptable to have 39 spaces for the 40 flats. Just again show you an indicative floor plan. It's very similar to the approved, other than the corners have been cut off. The layouts slightly altered to accommodate that, but all the flats remain of a good size. And there are the same number of flats as previously approved, so 14 1-bed flats and 26 2-beds, exactly the same as previously approved. Just to show you some street scenes, so you can see this is the proposed building. This is the flats over the road that I pointed out in the photos. I can see it's a similar scale. And again, this is that corner facing the roundabout that I pointed out. And then just some indicative CGIs that have been produced by the applicant to show the building in its location. So the principle of the proposed flats has been accepted previously, and there is a live permission on the site. This is an application to vary it, to slightly amend the design and to slightly reduce the size of the building on those corners. It's considered that the amended design is actually still of a good quality and helps the building turn that corner on a prominent location on the roundabout. The flat sizes remain good, and there's no greater impact on neighbours from that can be built already on site. The area is in a high flood risk zone, and the Environment Agency and Lead Local Flood Authority have been in significant consultation on these amendments, and they are happy with the amended scheme and raise no objections to that put before you tonight. Finally, the 2017 application has planning obligations attached to it, and committee members may remember last year in 2019 we looked at this site, and it was approved in principle to remove the requirement for affordable housing, as it had been demonstrated that it was not viable to do so. This Section 106 is not tied to variation applications, and as such a new Section 106 is needed. It is proposed that this would be the same as approved under 2017-0127, as amended by the application last year, which was 2019-0703, to remove the requirement for affordable housing. It's therefore recommended that the application be approved in principle, subject to a Section 106 agreement requiring a payment towards off-site open space, the provision of construction worker training opportunities, and the monitoring fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Well, we have no speakers on this application, so it's questions. Any questions direct to Anna straight away? Anybody got any questions to ask of Anna? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Hannah, just one small thing. Obviously, they've reduced the car parking spaces by 1. Now, I'm going to be hypothetically speaking here. Okay, we've got 40 flats, 39 spaces. If everybody had a car, which is unlikely, it's going to cause so much trouble. And I just wonder whether, it couldn't be adjusted somehow. There's no visitor parking, which I accept, but also, somebody, if everybody got one car, somebody's going to be unlucky. Now, unless the spaces are allocated, there's going to be fighting, arguments, and antisocial behaviour over who's parking where. And once the early people move in, they will claim almost rights to a parking space. And I just wonder whether the developer has even thought of that at all, because to me it would be a big issue.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Yes, I have discussed this with the developer, and they are looking at allocating them to flats, because obviously I've raised the same concern with them, but we can't require it through the planning application. It's not usually reasonable to attach a condition requiring it. The reason we think it's acceptable to have 39 instead of 40 is because it is such a sustainable location. Theoretically, a proposal with much less parking could be acceptable here because it is in such a sustainable location. So people shouldn't need to use a car in this location. So that's where we've balanced it out. It's also worth noting that we have also added a condition requiring EV charging. So there is on balance an improvement on the sites because there is now requirement for EV charging. So that's why we've considered it's acceptable.
Okay, thanks for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Anna, please?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
No. You weren't indicating, Brian, were you? No. Okay. Right. Thank you. So then we go on to comments and committee. Any comments on the application, please? No. Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah. Got to unmute yourself, Jane. Thank you.
That's
You're
it.
there.
Thank you. I'm just really pleased that this is going forward. I know there has been some alterations, but it's presently a particularly ugly building, and I think it will be an improvement. It's quite a prominent building, and the double gable, I think, on the corners actually makes it slightly more balanced, and it certainly will be an improvement on what is there at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you very much. Anyone else got any comments, please, committee?
Councillor Brian Markham and Councillor Lane are indicating, Chair.
Right, Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah.
Yeah, so I just hope we go looking back to 2017. Yeah, we're looking at 2020, 21, 22 before this thing is built. I think such changes as there are, which are minor, are improvements. It will sit better with the roundabout. I think we hope that they get on with it as soon as they possibly can. And I propose we accept the recommendation.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Councillor Lane, Jamie?
Yeah, I'll say the same as the other two. So I'm happy to second Brian's proposal.
Okay, all right. Not wishing to race. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Well, we have a proposer committee from Mr. Councillor Markham, Brian, and the seconder from Councillor Lane that we accept the officer's recommendation, approval in principle, subject to the finalisation of a S106 legal agreement to secure that. Well, you've read it on your papers. Do I have, having had that proposal and seconded, can I have a show of hands that we accept that officer's recommendation, please?
6, 7, 8, 9. That's unanimous. 9 hands, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone. We now come on to item 10D committee, which is on page 81 of your agenda, which is the location is 103 St Leonard's Road. This is for a change of use from a retail shop use class E to restaurant stroke takeaway sui generis, including installation of extraction ducting system. Anna, this is your, sorry, Rita, this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can you see the screen?
I can see the screen. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Can you see the slide? Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
You can see a slide here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is an application for change of use of 103 St Leonard's Road from a vacant shop to a takeaway. Let me just put on the laser pen. Thank you, Chair. As you can see, this is the application site to the north of St Leonard's Road and a row of terrace properties. Just an aerial photograph to show you the site. This is the unit in question. As I said, it's currently vacant, has been done so for 2 years. Previously, it was used as a coffee shop. Just another view of the other part of St Leonard's Road. This is the existing floor plan, as you can see on the ground floor, shop unit and storage area, toilet at the back. Upstairs has got separate entrance from the front, which is a separate flat above. This is the proposed layout. The upstairs part will remain the same. For the ground floor, they will have the takeaway unit and the counter and the restaurant to the rear. Part of the application also includes the installation of extraction units. As you can see, this is internally. In terms of outside, this is the extraction flue. You can see it to the back above this flat roof area. It is, in terms of visual amenity, I think the flue will be very similar to other flus in the area. For example, this is an existing takeaway next door. So in terms of impact, officer consider that that will be acceptable. So go back to the site. In terms of parking, obviously on St. Leonard's Road, there's no parking restriction. There are parking bays on St. Leonard's Road. As this is an existing commercial unit, obviously there's already parking demand. So in terms of the impact, officers do not consider that the change of use will impact on highway conditions severely, and highway has no comment on this application. Environmental health also has no objection to the proposed change of use, subject to conditions controlling the hours of use, noise, bin storage, and odor, which is contained within the report. I think members to be reminded that under the current legislation, planning permission is not required to change from a shop to a restaurant anymore. So this application requires permission because obviously with the takeaway element of the scheme. However, with that in mind, officer consider that to bring back this vacant unit into use, meaningful use should be supported, and also will add to the vitality to the local centre. So the recommendation therefore, Chair, is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. We have two speakers on this application committee. I call them as I've got listed. It's Councillor Julie Davenport. Good evening, Julie. If you just identify yourself for the record and in what capacity you speak, please. Good evening to you.
Okay, Councillor Julie Davenport, and I'm the ward councillor. And obviously I've had concerns myself, but residents have been in touch. Nothing against, you know, the company and what they're doing, the same as with the Tivoli. It's just that the area is already cram-packed with cars. So the retail outlet, which I've just been told it's a coffee shop, I knew it was a daytime retail outlet. I thought it was a charity shop, so I got mixed up there. So it opened at about 10 in the morning until, 5 in the evening. So the residents had gone to work and they didn't return until it closed. And so there was no additional traffic in the evenings. And that is what everybody is concerned about, that they won't be able to park they've got so many problems already, as you know, with parking. So it's going to cause much more problems with parking. Now, NCC has said it's okay because there's a bus stop nearby, but I can't imagine anyone, getting on the bus to get a takeaway, as by the time they got home, it would be cold again. So I don't think much of what Highways observations have brought about, because I don't think they've taken that into consideration. And obviously, I know this has to be looked at in isolation, but you've just discussed the Tivoli. And although, as Councillor Botwood said, there'll be 39 spaces now and 40 flats, a lot of the flats are 2-bedroom. So we're at a deficit already, but I know I shouldn't mention that on this. So, like I say, people already can't park on the streets and they double park actually. When it comes to the takeaways, they will double park, run out of their car, pick up takeaways and come back to their car. And that's already happening. And, just for your information, there's already 11 takeaways, restaurants, places where you can get snacks, etc., on that residential street. In fact, it's been taken over by them because other than 2 betting shops, 2 hairdressers and 2 small off licenses, all the other shops have gone. So that is the concern. It is the fact that it is a nighttime business, and I don't think anyone has taken that into account when they say it won't make any difference. And like I said, as for the bus, you're not going to catch a bus to get a takeaway. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. If you just remain as you are in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you. Committee, does anyone got any questions to ask of Councillor Davenport, please? I can't see anybody indicating.
No one indicating, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Thank you very much for that. And I call upon Mr. Ali I, please. I hope I've got the pronunciation right. If you'd like to just identify yourself, Mr. I, and in what capacity you speak, please.
Yeah, it's good evening. Thank you, Chair. Is first I have the respect is the planning officer for the recommendation for approval, and is no any objection from involving authority, environment health and the highway. The ladies for the car parking. For the car parking, the highway is not any comment or not any objection. If take away, this is the small shop. Before it was off license, and one is the sandwich bar is not affected car parking. And if they approve that this take away the restaurant is generally for the area, generally the all residential area for the walking and the walking customer. I don't think is for the takeaway servicing time it affected car parking. It all there are shopping. The St. Leonard is the rooftop shop. Is the fourth approval? I don't think it will be small affected for car parking. And I have the respect for the recommendation approval. And the long time what this shop is empty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. High. If you just hang on in case somebody's got a question to ask of your committee. Do you have a question to ask for Mr. I, please?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Mr. I. Thank you for that. Rita, before I throw it open for questions to ask, for committee to ask, do you have any questions? Do you want to come back on anything that's been said, please?
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair. Yeah, I'm noted what Councillor Davenport has said, but obviously it is a commercial unit, and if it's been to be used as a shop, it could open till late. Obviously, it will be unrestricted anyway. And I did mention before that to change this unit to a restaurant would not need planning permission. So really, it is the takeaway element of the scheme. I think on balance, we could argue that it could also serve local residents that live around the area, so they may not drive to the area. So the unit has been vacant for some time. So it is a balancing act, and I acknowledge the concern regarding parking, but on balance, officers still feel that this is an acceptable proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. Committee, do you have any questions directly to ask of Rita, please?
No.
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Can't see anybody. Thank you, Ed. Right, we go on to comments then, committee. Anyone got any comments to ask of this application, please? No?
No one indicating, Chair.
Okay, well then, committee, it falls upon me to say the officer's recommendation is for approval, as you can see. Do I have a proposal that we accept the officer's recommendation for the approval?
Councillor Lane.
Councillor Lane, Jamie, thank you. A seconder, please.
Councillor Kilby-Shaw.
Sam, thank you. All those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this? Show of hands, please. Should be 9, if it's unanimous.
It's unanimous, Chair. 9 hands.
Thank you. Thank you very much, committee. Thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Davenport. Thank you, Mr. Rye. Thank you.
Chair, before you move to the next item, even though I've got this iPad plugged into the mains, it's still saying that I'm not going to lose power shortly. I don't understand how it can be plugged into the mains and
you should pay your electric bill, Brian.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Well, the light's not gone out yet. Maybe the lights are going to go out as well. So if I disappear, well, it's not that I've got bored. It's just that as you say, I'm not paid the electricity bill.
All right, we'll bear that in mind. Hopefully the gremlins won't attack you too much. Okay, thank you for that. So, right, committee, we now come on to item 10E, which is on page 89. This is for location is 24 Penfold Drive, and it's the description of the application is a self-contained annex on footprint of approved double garage. Anna, I believe this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is the application site, access through Penfold Drive to the south. Dwelling has a large garden as existing. And just a closer up view, so this is the application site. The garden extends around here, also has quite a large front garden, an existing drive, and what we'll be looking at is located in this position here. So just some photographs of the site now. So this is the house, and the extension and the annex would be located here. And just some photos showing how it's screened already. So it'd be located around here. Again, this is the site, so it'd be approximately in that location. So the description makes reference to an approved garage. This is the garage that was approved earlier this year in April. So you can see it's located in this location, which is towards the road, roughly where I pointed. And you can see it is a double garage with a hipped roof. The application we're now looking for is for a building that is exactly the same size and in exactly the same location as the approved garage. The only change is that instead of a garage, it is now proposed to be an annex. It is not a new dwelling, it is an annex that's associated with the main property. So any person using the annex would have to be associated with the family in the main house. And condition 4 has been attached to remind of this, but planning permission would be needed in any case if this was wanted to be used as a separate house. That would need planning permission. So just to reiterate, it is an annex that we're looking at and not a new house. So the annex would be located in the same location as the approved garage, which is in the front garden area. You can see it's the same size. You have some windows facing the road to create an active frontage, but again, still not many openings, so that is not that different to the garage that was approved previously. And you can see in this indicative sketch as well, its positioning. So this is the house that we could see in those photos, and this is an extension that we couldn't see. So it's positioned in front of that extension. So the annex is set back from the road, it's not prominent, it's well screened from the vegetation, and it's also a building has already been approved in this location of the same size. It's therefore considered that the proposal would be acceptable. As mentioned, it's an annex, and condition 4 is proposed to remind of this. It has to be used in association with the main house. Some concerns were raised with parking, but as you can see from this plan, there still remains a very large drive that you could fit a large number of vehicles on. Annexes do not require any increase in parking provision, but in any case there is a significant level of parking that can be provided on the existing drive. It is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Right, we have one speaker on this application, and I'll call him Councillor Andy Kilbride, please. Good evening, Andy. Sorry for the, thank you for being patient. If you just start your speech, identify yourself and in what capacity you speak for the record, Andy, please.
Good evening, Chair. I'm Councillor Andy Kilbride. I represent the Billing Ward. Good evening, councillors and officers.
You 3 minutes then, Andy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brian. So the original application for this was just for a garage. And what's happened from there on is it got approved with the blessing of all the neighbours nearby. What subsequently has happened is the owner has decided to make it into a self-contained annex, and obviously he's upset a lot of the neighbours there because they believe that that was the original plan all along, rightly or wrongly. On top of that, the people that own this property run a business from the home, and very many people come to the home. I believe it's a kind of a church, so there's lots and lots of cars there. So what happens is on the turn point, it causes a lot of difficulty for the neighbours in the surrounding houses, which is quite unfair. There is a covenant on the actual building itself to say that it can't be used as a business. And here we are, you know, a number of years on, and, you know, the people that own it want to run a business from there and have all these cars. And it's, you know, it's caused lots of problems. So I'm asking you guys to have a close look at this and see the impact it's having on the residents nearby. There is a lot of space at the back of the garden, and they couldn't understand why he didn't build the annex at the back of the garden rather than the front, which would have accommodated lots of the parking. But he's chose to do it the other way around, which of course is a big problem. So that's all I've got to say, really. The parish council have also objected to this application, and that's all I've got to say. And thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Andy. Thank you for that. If there's anybody got any questions to ask of Councillor Kilbride committee, please? No? Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah, see you.
Thank you, Chair. Andy, Billing Parish Council sort of imply that this is an overdevelopment, and you know it could be the first of many. It's sort of set a precedent. They don't like this idea of, you know, developing plots of land around houses. Is this something that, you know, is happening a lot? Is this something that, you know, the parish council are concerned about from a sort of, you know, what are the grounds for their fears and their concerns, really?
Well, I think, as we all know, there's a lot of backyard development that goes on, but this one's come to through the front. And just in this particular case, I mean, no one's objecting to people improving their houses, far from it. But what this is having a detrimental effect on the other neighbours with the parking, because of the turn point and because of the nature of the business that the owner intends to use it for. That's the issue for the parish.
Well, thank you. Right, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jane. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Councillor Kilbride? No, I can't see anybody indicating.
No indications, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Andy, for that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Would you like to come back before I open the questions to you, Anna, on what Councillor Kilbride said, Anna?
Yes, please, Chair. Just to reiterate, what we're looking at tonight is for an annex. It's not for the business use mentioned. That would be something that would need to be looked at separately. This is purely for an annex associated to the main house, and that's what we're assessing. And again, just to reiterate that with regard to the overdevelopment of the site, a garage has been approved here. It is considered that a building in that location is acceptable and wouldn't be overdevelopment. Thank you, Chair.
I think on that point about the business that Andy, Councillor Kilbride raised, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think covenants are a matter of a civil matter. They're not a planning material condition, are they?
That's right, Chair. Yeah, we can't consider covenants under planning.
Yeah. Thank you. I thought that was the case. Yeah, thank you. Right, committee, any questions to ask of Anna, please? No, go.
Nobody
Go on.
indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you. Right, committee, then it's comments on it, on the application. Any comments, please? I can't see anybody indicating there either, Ed. No.
No indications, Chair.
Thank you. Well, committee, the officer's recommendation is for approval. You heard the report, how it's been presented, and the points that Councillor Kilbride's raised. On that basis, do I have a proposal that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval, please? Anybody? Councillor Botwood, Alan, thank you. A seconder, please. Councillor Kelly, thank you very much. Thank you, Muna. Thank
Into
you.
it again. He's getting good at this, old Brian.
Well, yeah, less of the Brian.
Oh, Brian, I thought I was on mute. I do apologise, Councillor.
So, no, I hope you took the point what I was making then. Okay, we've got a proposer and a seconder, Councillor Botwood and Councillor Kelly seconded. All those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation? Numbers 7, I've got 7.
Seven, Chair.
Councillor Brian Markham did leave the meeting at the start of this item. I think his tablet finally died.
Okay, so it's 7-4, so we've got 8 members. So there's a member missing, Councillor Chowdhury. I think that was you. Naz, are you abstaining or against?
I'm abstaining, Chair.
Thank you very much, Naz. Okay, but 7-4, 1 abstention. That application is approved. Thank you very much, committee. Thank you, and for all those who took part in that. Thank you. We now come on to item 10F, which is on page 95, committee, which is at 70 Victoria Road. This is a variation of a condition 5 of the planning permission granted in 2018. It's virtually a change from 4 to 5 occupants. Rita, I believe this is your report. Would you like to present it, please, for us?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Yep, can you see the slide? Yep.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, so let's see whether it works and seems to be want to move. Sorry about this. Let me try again. So I beg your pardon. I'll try again. Is it any better? Yeah.
It's okay to me, Rita. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. No, sorry. It seems to be want to shift. I need to slight technical problem, sorry.
We've got gremlins, Rita. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. See this one. It just doesn't seem to be able to shift the first slide, sorry. Okay, I'll try again. Okay, sorry about this. Okay, see whether this time any better?
Can't see, Rita.
Yeah, you can see.
Coming up now. You're coming up
Yeah.
now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You can see that slide. Yeah.
Don't know why it's not moving to this next slide for me. Beg your pardon. Okay, I'll try once more if not have to, probably not using it per se. Okay. So I will be doing that again. Sorry, Chair.
All right, Rita.
I ought to come out and come back in again. Yeah, sometimes it does get frozen.
Yeah. Time of the year.
Right, hopefully this time it will work. I promise you. Okay, there you go. And this is Right.
Mm.
I
I've
don't
got
know why.
something different. I've got something different, Rita.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, there you are. We've got another
Yeah.
bit.
Ah, that's
Right, there we
better.
go.
Sorry.
We've got left.
It
We've gone
just
back to
gets
St Leonard
frozen. Yeah.
Robertson.
Okay, that's okay. Oh, sorry about this,
Mm.
Chair. Really sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
This is next application for a variation of condition for 70 Victoria Road. So this is the application site, as you can see, to the right-hand side of Victoria Road. Okay, just an area photograph. The property in question currently is an existing 4-person high mall. So the application purely to vary condition 5 of the previous planning permission to allow the property to change from a 4-person high mall to 5-person high mall. A previous approval also included a single-story rear extension and a dormer to the rear. Both elements has already been built. However, the single-story extension slightly changed, so this current application does help to regularize this particular element of the scheme. The photograph to show you this is part of Victoria Road. This is the property in question. It's reasonably sized property. So just show you, as I mentioned, about the rear single-story extension. Yeah. So this, you can see the extension already in situ, and also the rear dormer already there. So this is the existing layout, which has got 4 people living as high malls. So currently has got lounge, dining room, a study. This is part of the single-story extension to be the kitchen, and also a shower and toilet on the ground floor. On the first floor, there are 3 bedrooms, but 2 of the bedrooms has got ensuite facilities, shower and toilet. And the attic where the dormer is also another bedroom with also ensuite facility. The property also includes a cellar there. So this is the proposed plan. So nothing changes from here. So the lounge, diner there. So previously the study now will become one of the bedrooms. Again, first floor, nothing changed with the 3 bedrooms and the attic. So in terms of parking, the area is a parking permit area. A highway has no objection to the proposal. The site is close to the town centre, within a sustainable location and close to bus route and facilities. In terms of the layout, as I mentioned, the pure change of use is the study. So there's still sufficient facility to serve 5 occupants. Private sector housing has no objection to the proposal. So subject to conditions regarding bin storage, spike storage, and the cellar not to be used as a bedroom, officer has no objection to the proposal. So the recommendation, therefore, Chair, is for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you very much. Well, we have 1 speaker on this item. It's Councillor Stone, Councillor Daniel Stone. Danielle, thank you for being patient and waiting with us. So, as for the record again, Danielle, if you just identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, please.
I'm one of the ward councillors for this area, and I'm here to represent the views of the residents that I work with in this area. I didn't agree with this dwelling becoming a high mow in the first place. I think this is just an act of greed, making it a 5-person high mow. I think the smaller rooms, and this study is one of them, is far too small to be somebody's private space. Once there is storage in there, there won't be room to swing a cat. I think that kitchen is far too small for 5 households. The objections from the residents is because this street is really densely populated. A lot of the dwellings are either legal or illegal high mows. A lot have been turned into flats and apartments. There is the hugest amount of pressure on this street. And the families that are trying to bring their children up there or to live with some sense of community are facing daily struggles. And the daily struggles are about parking, but they're also about antisocial behaviour. They're also about littering and fly tipping. And they are working really, really hard to create a sense of community. One of the residents has done a wonderful wall mural there. Some of the residents have put out planting boxes to bring the street to life. They are just struggling really, really hard to make this a really nice place to live. And the denser it becomes and the more transient it becomes, the harder their job is. So I object to this proposal. I think it's a question of greed. I think the 2 smaller rooms are far too small and should never be allowed. And I think the kitchen isn't fit for 5 separate households. Added to all of that, you will have noticed by the street scene how narrow those pavements are. I have got a real concern, and I have let people on the planning committee and the planning officers know in these COVID-ridden times, I think we need to be taking extra care to make sure that residents can keep themselves safe. Now, on those streets, people cannot pass each other, you know, with a metre distance between themselves. They have to walk out onto the road. The denser the area is, the worse that becomes. I think the more people and separate households you have in one dwelling, the more difficult it becomes to be COVID aware and COVID safe. So I really strongly object. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. If you just remain with us metaphorically, actually with us, so if the committee's got any questions to ask of you. Committee, do you have any questions to ask of Councillor Davenport, please?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Danielle. Rita, before I ask the committee to open it up with the committee to ask you any questions, do you want to come back on anything what Councillor Stone said?
Through you, Chair. Just one point. Obviously, the report make it quite clear in paragraph 8.14 regarding the COVID situation. Obviously, that will be covered by public health regulations and policies, which is not really a material planning consideration. Apart from that, I think the room size is for this particular study is very similar to the other bedroom and room 4 and private sector housing. They are quite happy with the facilities provided and room sizes as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. Committee, anybody got any questions directly to ask of Rita, please? Excuse me.
Councillor Mary Markham's indicating, Chair, and Councillor Burke.
Right, thank you. Councillor Markham. Mary, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Rita, could I have a look at the downstairs floor plan again, please?
Right, okay. Yep, can you see it? Yep.
Yeah, I can. It's as I thought. This new bedroom, which was the study, if private sector housing said the size of it's fine, then we have to accept that. However, the problem I have is not so much the size, but the fact that the quality of life that we're asking the person who's using that room to have. Normally, if we have bedrooms that are downstairs, one wall of them may be, attached to the kitchen and the rest of it's moving away from the kitchen. But actually the whole of this bedroom, so the whole wall and the door is all encompassed in the kitchen. So the person in that room, will have no quality of life. People making breakfast, early morning breakfast, people making late meals at night. It's not a suitable room for accommodation. Sometimes if you have a bedroom, it might be where the lounge and the dining room is with one wall and then it going away. But the whole of that room is encompassed by the kitchen. So yeah, I would have a problem with that. Thank you.
Rita, thank you, Mary.
Yeah. Through you, Chair, obviously, there's no specific regulation, in our policies to say that the rooms shall not be adjoined to, a kitchen. The policy only governs the size of the room. It is an existing situation, as in this is an existing room. So it's difficult to say, because obviously we will not ask for the room to be insulated, for example, because it's already an existing element and it's the existing HIMO. So I think if someone choose to live there and decided that it wasn't great, I'm sure that person will then probably not continue to live there, because obviously they have to rent the room from this. But apart from that, I can't really have that much to add to that, really. Just acknowledge what Councillor Markham have said. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. Who else has to? Was it you, Jane? Councillor Jane? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I absolutely agree with what Councillor Markham's just said. To have a bedroom, actually the entrance being in a kitchen that is used by 5 separate households is unacceptable. And I also noticed that the fire exit is through that bedroom. Now, if there's a fire in that kitchen, which is where fires normally start, you've got people perhaps having to exit through that bedroom to get out of the house. It's this is as it's been said before, this is landlord greed. Somebody gets planning permission for a HIMO for 4 people, thinks, right, I can make a little bit more money, I can squeeze 5 people in. 5 people, one more person makes a difference in a house like this. It's not just that the house can accommodate it, that person will not make a difference to the density and the community feel of the area. I really do think, this is one person too many in this house. There's already 3 people. Well, there's 2 people sharing a small bathroom and shower, small toilet, basin and shower, accessed via the kitchen. So this will be a 3rd person sharing this small shower bathroom. These people aren't related. They're not the same household. We have got COVID. We have got what appears to be, an overcrowded kitchen, bathroom, bedroom situation. I just think it's not appropriate to have that extra person living in that dwelling. I can't support this.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Rita, please?
Yes, please, Chair.
Councillor Botwood. Alan,
Thank you. Rita, just looking at that plan and seeing where the fire escape is, if that person's using that as a bedroom, surely their door will be locked. So is that a legitimate fire escape?
Through you, Chair, I think this is a fire escape window. It's not a fire escape. So when you look at the layout, you come in here, this lounge. So this is the entrance to the bedroom. It's just a fire escape window. I think looking at the layout, if members really have concern about this, I will make a suggestion. You start with defer the application, because when you look at the application, perhaps there is scope. If the applicant so wish to have 5 people, you start, instead of using the study as a bedroom, there's no reason why, if the size is that maybe they can change one of this to a bedroom and then remain the lounge and change that to another lounge. But we will need to work out whether the size obviously is to standard. But by judging from previous experience, altogether, this is quite a large property. And for 5 people, I don't think in principle should be a problem in terms of the floor space. But if members are really concerned about the internal layouts, then there's scope perhaps to go back to the applicant and see whether there's any improvement can be made. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, can I come back on that one, please?
You're going on, yeah.
Yeah, the question I was asking, Rita, whether it's a window or a door, that's fine. That's at the back end of the room. But the front door to that room, where the access, surely will be locked if people are using that as a bedroom. So nobody able to go that way to get out anyway.
Except the person in that room.
Chair.
Yeah, I think the fire escape window is for the person in that room. I think everybody else has got access to is coming out the front, I think.
You're correct, Chair. I think that is just for that person. So really, normally for layout, you need the back access and the front access for fire escape. So this is not for everybody to go through this room. So yeah.
Thanks, Rita.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody else got any questions to ask of Rita before I go to comments? No.
I think Peter has want to speak, Chair.
Peter, yeah, sorry.
I think Councillor Mary Markham was indicating as well, actually, but if I can come in after Councillor Markham.
Well, on to comments. Well, okay. Mary, you got on.
Do you go ahead? I'll wait to the comments. No problem.
Thank you very much indeed. If I could just clarify that fire issue, even if you grant permission, it would be subject to them getting approval under the building regulations. So that is a separate issue under separate legislation. So I would not encourage a refusal on these grounds. However, from my understanding of it, the kitchen would have 2 exits. It would have the back door and it would have access through the front door. Again, that's not so far away, so that wouldn't comply with it. And I think that fire exit is just for the occupant of that study bedroom. I'd also remind committee, of course, this is an existing situation. So in that case, that room could be used as a bedroom without any element of planning and control. Thanks.
Right, thank you. Right, I'm still on to we'll go on to comments. Comments then, committee, please. Councillor Markham, Mary, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to say that I would support Rita in saying that we defer this, go back to the applicant. I would be happy to consider this, or would have been happy to consider it if it appeared before us as a plan. I do believe that this applicant is trying to over-egg the property that's already there. However, for planning reasons, I wouldn't have been able to find anything to go against had the bedroom been where the lounge is and the study be made into the dining room or the lounge, or an extension of the lounge. But as it stands with somebody actually living where the whole of their bedroom wall plus their access into the room is connected to the kitchen, where 4 other people can cook at any time of the day or night because they have the right to do so because they live there, then I don't think that's given anybody a proper quality of life. And I also feel that if it led to problems, it could lead to antisocial behaviour among the people who live there and cause problems. So I would be happy to look if it was deferred.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Councillor Kilby-Shaw. Sam, yeah.
Yep, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to echo Councillor Mary Markham's comments. As it stands, I don't think the placement of the 5th bedroom is appropriate, and I would support the motion to have it deferred so that you can discuss this with the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Just let me clarify this before we go any further. I didn't quite get what you said, Peter or Rita. It seems to me as if it might be more convenient to defer it as opposed to facing an outright refusal. Are we got sufficient latitude to be able to defer it? I'm talking about in time factors now from the time the application was made.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, I'm sure the applicant will be pleased that we're keeping a dialogue with them rather than a refusal. So in this instant, I would rather advise that we do so, and we will bottom out, a more appropriate layout. Obviously, why we bring this forward to you, because this is what the applicant wants. But now we can go back to the applicant and say, this is what the committee thinks. So we'll report back to you to see the outcome of that.
I think also, before I leave that, the thing about this COVID-19 coronavirus, I have to stress that there is nothing in planning regulations that deals with this. I've checked with the leader, I've checked with Peter to see if there's any government legislation that's come in about this, and there isn't. And as 8.14 says, it's subject to separate government guidance as the spread of infectious diseases are, to which we haven't got any yet, and they're not material planning considerations to this application, which it is not. So we can't really use that as a reason to defer or reject it, in my opinion, at this stage. But are anybody else who's got any comments to make on this application before I move it to stage further to see where we go? Councillor Birch, Jane.
Thank you, Chair. I'd be happy to support a deferment on this because it's not satisfactory at the moment, and we're not doing our best by these residents by agreeing to that sort of minimal standard.
Right. Teresa, I've got to bring you in on this if I can straight away before I go and through legislative powers and people being correct. It don't look to me as if this is going to go through as an application as it's presented. So can we go straight to the fact of proposing for a deferment?
Yes.
If need be.
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
You can move from the chair that the application be deferred for the reasons stated.
Thank you very much. All right, committee. Well, I think that seems to be the lay of the land on this one. Could I have a proposal that we defer this application to go for giving Rita time to go back to the applicant, please? Could I have a proposal for that? Do we defer this application at this particular point in time? Councillor Kilby-Shaw, Sam, yeah. The seconder? Do I have a second? Councillor Lane, Jamie, thank you. So we're voting on this being deferred. Sorry? Could I hear a voice then? So we're voting on this application being deferred for Rita to go back to the applicant to tell them our concerns. All those in favour? And please, before we leave this situation, Peter, Rita, are we happy with this? And this is what we're doing.
Thank you. It's 7 hands, Chair. I think Councillor Chowdhury has left. Yeah.
Correct. He has. Yes.
Is there anybody against that deferment? Let's put it that way. I don't see if there's 7. I think that's all that's left in the committee at the minute, because Councillor Markham's left, haven't he?
Yeah. Correct.
7. So it's a unanimous vote that this has been deferred. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and we will go back to the applicant and discuss those issues that have been raised tonight.
Thank you very much for that, Peter. Thanks for your input, both of you. Thanks for that, for the guidance, and yours, Teresa. Thank you very much, and thanks for all that was said. So that item 10F is deferred. Now, committee, there's no item 10G that has been withdrawn. So we go straight to 10H now, which is on page 111, all the ones, which is on 64 Charles Street, which is a conversion of a single dwelling into 2 apartments with a new window to basement and alteration to window opening. And I believe this is your report. Nikki, would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So just draw members' attention to the addendum. We've had an additional representation from a local residents. In summary, the main concerns relate to issues of antisocial behaviour and issues with existing HMOs within the area. In response, the application that we're considering before us is for 2 one-bedroom flats and not a HIMO. And also in respect of antisocial behaviour, it can't be assumed that the residents of the proposed flats would result in any increase in antisocial behaviour issues. In addition to that, we've got 2 additional conditions. There's the one that we've had previously tonight to remove permitted development rights for the property to become a housing multiple occupation. And also additional condition 5, which prevents use of the basement study room to be used as a bedroom. So this is the application site here. It's an end terrace corner plot. And slightly unusual layout. It was previously a shop, so the property is actually attached to number 37 Cranston Street. It's currently a 2-bedroom dwelling, but as a result of its attachment to number 37, there's no outdoor space for this property. So this is the property here. You can see it essentially runs where you can see the downpipe there, so that's the end of the property. Where you've got an existing window here, you can just about make out where there was previously a door, and it's proposed to insert a new door there, and that would provide the access to the ground floor flat. And then just in this dark brick area on the corner, there would be a new window inserted. So at the front of the property, that would be the entrance to the upper floor flat. And then just at pavement level, a small window would be inserted there to provide a window to the basement for flat 1. So these are plans, just to note, this is the existing side elevation and new side elevation with the new door and window. And then you could just about hopefully make out there on the proposed front elevation, you can see the insertion of a new window there. So at the moment it's a 2-bedroom property with a basement, and then you've got a double lounge area on ground floor with kitchen to rear, and then 2 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs. So in terms of the proposed layout, as I say, you'd have access to flat 1 would be through this new doorway here into a living, combined kitchen living area, and the kitchen wraps around to the back of the property there, and then the toilet and shower room to the rear and bedroom to the front. And this would be essentially a sliding door arrangement between, so this room could open up. And in association with flat 1, you've also got what's been referred to as a study area in the basement, and that's the room that has the condition on to prevent it becoming a bedroom. So flat 1 would be accessed through the existing front door at the property. You've got again open plan living kitchen area there, bedroom, and then bathroom to the back. So in terms of unit sizes, the ground floor unit, including the basement area, would be approximately 48 square metres in total, and the first floor flat would be 30.5 square metres in total. So the first floor flat does fall slightly below the national space standards. As I say, it's not currently adopted policy, although that will be the direction we'll be looking to go. But the upper floor flat is served by good provision of daylight and outlook. So on balance, officers considered that accommodation was acceptable. Parking would be on street. It's the site's in a permit zone, and the Highway Authority have raised no objection to it. It's also in a sustainable location within walking distance of public facilities and public transport and local facilities, and also not far from the town centre as well. In terms of refuse storage, it's not dissimilar to the existing arrangement. As I say, that there's no external refuse storage space. So currently the existing situation is the house stores the refuse within the property. That would be a similar situation for the flats. There's refuse storage cupboards proposed in the kitchen areas of both flats. So on balance, officer recommendation is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you very much. We have one speaker again on this. This is Councillor Stone. Councillor Danielle, Sorry to call upon you again and just announce yourself in what capacity you speak. And thanks for being patient and sticking with it. Thank you.
I'm the one of the ward councillors for this area. Poor old Castle Ward under a huge amount of pressure every which way we look. I do the hugest amount of casework and environmental work in this street. I have complaints from this street nearly every week. The police are called to different residences in this street nearly every week. Everything that the complainant, the resident, said is absolutely true. This is a street under the most enormous, it's only a tiny little street, under the most enormous pressure. I couldn't believe that the officers had approved this application and recommended its acceptance. It's completely unacceptable. It is unacceptable. Both dwellings are far too small. The fact that there's no external space, you cannot expect people in this day and age to keep their food rubbish and all their other rubbish in such close proximity to themselves on a daily basis. It's unreasonable. We can't do that to people. I find it highly objectionable that this has even come before the committee. It's unacceptable. The footage isn't right. You know, the fact that the basement is going to have a funny tiny little window, that's not acceptable, you know. That is not a usable space with a tiny little window like that. Supposing there's a fire in the kitchen and somebody's in that basement, they won't be able to get out. I think it's really unacceptable and I ask you to vote against it.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Thank you. Committee, have you got any questions to ask of Councillor Stone, please? Anyone? No?
Nobody indicating, Chair.
Ed, thank you very much. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you very much. Nikki, do you want to come back on anything that's been raised by Councillor Stone before I open it up to the committee to ask questions of you, please?
No, nothing to come back on, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, committee. Any questions to Nikki, please? Any questions at all? No?
Oh, Councillor Mary Markham's indicating.
Councillor Mary Markham. Mary, go on then, please.
I just wonder why we're prepared to put something like this forward as being subject to approval when we're able to sit here and say that, you know, the upstairs accommodation, you know, doesn't meet the standard we're going to set, below the standards. And, you know, we are sitting here deliberating on approving something that is not of a decent standard for somebody to live in.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for that. Anyone else got any questions?
Sorry, Chair. Did Mary want me to? Was that a question?
That's
or?
right. Yeah. Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
No, you better, yeah.
Why are we considering
Sorry.
something like this, Nikki, when we're able to say that the upstairs doesn't meet the set standard?
Sorry, that was me jumping the gun. Yeah, it was a question.
That's all right. Yeah, we're essentially going through a transition period. That the local plan part 2 isn't adopted yet. The intention is to adopt these national space standards, but they're not adopted policy at the moment. So it's the position we're in at the moment. The weight will increase that we can give that as the local plan part 2 progresses, but currently it's not adopted local policy.
Right, thank you. Anything coming back on that, Mary? Did you want to come back on that?
No, I just think that, you know, we get to where we say we're going to do this and we're going to be a better housing provider, but, you know, until then, well, we'll just squeeze the odd one through. You have to think of the person who's going to live in this upstairs space. You know, we're doing it for a reason as part of the local plan. You know, let's be brave and stand up to it now and not ask people to live in rooms that aren't of the size that we believe. If we're putting this in the local plan, it's because it's what we believe is right and proper. So why are we trying to push something through before that happens?
Well, I think on one basis, correct me if I'm wrong, Nikki, but if we tried to push it through now, we wouldn't have any legislative powers in which to say it's a planning policy that we could do it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's not current planning policy. I fully take on board what Councillor Markham's saying. And also in reference to kind of pushing it through, unfortunately, we have an application before us and we have a statutory duty to determine that application within the given timescales.
Sure. Thank you. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Nikki, please? Councillor Birch, Jane.
Thank you, Chair. Nikki, why are we not asking for bike, cycle storage and rubbish storage in this application? We do in all the others. It's a sustainable location. We're hoping they're not going to have cars, and we want to provide cycle storage. So, where are they going to put their bikes? And, I want to know where they're going to dry their clothes. I want to know, how they're going to do the laundry, where they're going to put their rubbish. These things are important in every other application that we look at. Why are they not at all, they're just not here in this one?
We've got to compare it to the existing situation. It's currently a 2-bedroom. It's currently a 2-bedroom property, essentially a family home. The rubbish is currently, it is take on board. It's an unusual situation, but it doesn't have any outdoor space, but is currently resided in as a 2-bedroom property. So not ideal in any way, but we have got a condition to agree some form of refuse storage, and that would have to be internal, but we'd have to seek to ensure that there is an appropriate ventilation to the internal bin storage cupboards, essentially, which is all they could provide. But as I say, that's an existing situation where refuse is stored in the property. In terms of cycle storage, again, yes, we would normally seek cycle provision. Again, that there's no external space to do so. So we have to take a balanced judgment of where the property is and the sustainable location and the additional dwelling, albeit one additional dwelling. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Nikki, please?
Peter's indicating, Chair.
Peter, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just that issue about the policy background. Nikki's spot on. We don't have a policy yet. We've got a policy which has been out for consultation, so we can only attach very little weight to it. However, if this was a situation where it was a particularly contrived proposal, where, for example, there was lots of steps and things internally which were using up that floor space, so it wasn't effective usable floor space, then I think we would be prepared to give it a go. But on this one, I really think, given that it's all level, it's all usable space, I think in the current situation we'd have difficulty sustaining a refusal on it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Peter. Thank you. Right, there's no more questions to ask of Nikki. It's comments committee. Now we're on to comments. Any comments, please? I mean, to me, on this, it is a situation that's a bit of 6 of one and 1.5 dozen of another. Planning regulations are pretty strict. I think we are in the fact of where we are at the minute is a transitional period, and I hear what's been said, but I think on existing planning regulations, it wouldn't be sustainable to refuse it on the fact of the space factor, especially where conservation's got no problems, environmental health has got no problems, and also the local highway authority's got no problems. It'd be very difficult to sustain on refusal on appeal, this one. So I hear what's been said and I sympathise with what's been said and I understand what's been said, but I think in this particular case, purely and simply on a planning policies at the minute, I think it's very difficult on planning guidance to refuse it and accept it to be sustained on appeal. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. Anybody comments? We're still on comments. That's just my one opinion.
No one is indicating, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Maisie. Right, well, the application has been debated thoroughly. Thank you very much. Well done. The recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions has been set out. So do I have a proposal that we accept this proposal, recommendation from the committee, please? But from the officers, I'm sorry. Councillor Kilby-Shaw proposing. A seconder, please. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lane.
Councillor
Thank
Lane.
you. Yeah, I've got him. Thank you. Right. All those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this application, please.
Four, Chair.
4, okay. Those against?
2, Chair.
Right, thank you. Abstention? Any abstention? Councillor Birch.
Just the one.
So that's approved on a 4 for the approval, 2 against and 1 abstention. That's approved. Thank you very much. Right, before Councillor Markham that is, and Alan, Councillor Botwood leave us, I wonder if you'd stay in the waiting room, guys, if you don't mind, while we discuss the last item on the agenda, item 12A, because after the meeting's closed, I want to make a very brief statement, a brief announcement. So if you could just be patient and stay with us in the waiting room, I'd be very grateful. Mary,
No problem, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, we come on now to the last item of the evening, which is item 12A on page 119, which is a single story. It's a Northampton Partnership Homes application. It's a single story side extension and new front porch together with internal alterations and vehicular crossover. Anna, this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the application site is a semi-detached property. This is the site here, and it has an existing store that actually attaches to the neighbouring property. And you can also see it currently has a canopy porch, but there are examples of closed porches next door. And there's also currently no access for parking. Just a closer view to show the store and the existing porch. And then from the back, you can just see the store link that currently exists. So this is the existing situation with that store behind the tree. The application proposes to demolish that store and build a new single-story extension. It's slightly deeper, but it remains behind the neighbouring properties. The porch would also be rebuilt to be enclosed. So you can see the extension and the porch there. And also a drop curb is proposed to allow parking. The drop curb doesn't need planning permission as it's not a classified road. However, it's in the application, so it's included in the assessment. It's considered that the proposed porch and the proposed replacement extension and the proposed crossover are all acceptable in design terms, would not impact upon neighbouring amenity, and it's therefore considered the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Right, we have one speaker, Jonathan. Jonathan Evans, you are with us. I can see you there, Jonathan. There's nobody speaking against this. So if you want to do what we normally do, if you want to be there in case there's any questions. Thank you for your patience, Jonathan. I do appreciate that.
No problem at all, Chair.
Thank you very much. So, committee, if there's any questions, it can be questions to Anna or Jonathan, whichever. Just let me know which it is you want to raise a question to. So, are there any questions to ask of Jonathan or Anna, committee? Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The question to Jonathan. Is this extension at the request of a present tenant, or is it for sort of best use of potential space that's available there?
Councillor, yes. So essentially, what's happening is we have various tenants with disabilities that require ground level living. So the idea is to convert the existing store into a well insulated bedroom containing a level access shower with full wheelchair accessibility on the ground floor.
All right, Jane, with that? Yeah. Okay, anybody else got any questions, please, committee? No?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Okay, any comments, please? Councillor Lane, Jamie.
Yeah, I propose to accept the officer's recommendation and approve the application.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to that? Councillor Kilby-Shaw, Sam, yeah, thank you. All those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Sorry, Jonathan, you've had to wait, but there you go. You did get the result, Jonathan.
No problem, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that's unanimously approved. On that basis, then the meeting, I call the meeting closed. But now, if you just hang with me, thanks everybody for the input on that. It's been a very well debated agenda. Thank you very much. If Alan and Mary can come back in, are they coming back in?
They're back in the meeting. Yeah.
Are they both in?
I'm here.
Yeah, they're right. What it is, you probably do know this, possibly, probably do know this, but Councillor Birch, Jane.
We are live on YouTube. Do you wish to remain live on YouTube?
No, I don't, not really. Can it come off?
Yes, just a second.